Hey everybody, it's Jason with Parallel Reality coming back with you today with an article from PJ Media dated August 11th. And I've often wondered this question myself with the rise of the DSA recently, and is what would Karl Marx think of the Democratic Socialists of America? So let's go ahead and find out. And this article starts actually down here after all this stuff, after the little asterisk. So let's get into it here. It says, there's a reason Democrats keep tripping over their own feet trying to put daylight between themselves and communism, and it isn't bad messaging. It's well-documented history, the kind of history that every educated person once absorbed as a matter of course before the 1960s radicals, who became 1990s college professors, decided, collectively of course, get it, it's a joke, that rigorous examinations of history were counterproductive. Indeed, I fully expect some Democratic Socialists of America to come roaring in here to correct me, and they'll probably be wrong because they're wrong about everything. Says, let's start at the source, because the source settles this argument before it even gets started. In his 1875 Critique of the Gotha Program, Karl Marx himself, not some hostile modern critic like me putting words in his mouth, but the man himself, in his own writing, laid out the sequence in black and white. And here it is. It says, quote, between capitalist and communist society, there lies the period of the revolutionary transformation of the one into the other, end quote. It says, read that again, slowly, because the modern democratic socialist crowd would very much prefer you skim past it. Marx's own sequence runs capitalism, then evolutionary transition, and finally communist society. Notice what's conspicuously absent from that chain? It's socialism as its own permanent, stable, comfortable destination. That isn't in there. It's a bridge, not a house. It's a stepping stone toward communism, not the final working utopia they claim. Marx went on to split communist society itself into two stages. In the lower stage, distribution still tracks roughly to labor contributed. You get out what you put in, more or less. Only in the higher stage does Marx's most quoted line become achievable. From each according to his ability, to each according to his needs. That's the finish line Marx was actually building toward. Everything before it is merely psychological scaffolding. Here's the part that should genuinely embarrass anyone wearing the Democratic Socialist label today. Marx routinely used socialism and communism as interchangeable terms. Aha, there we go. You like to see the people out there that say, no, they're not quite the same. Well, the guy whose ideology you're following says, nope, they're the same. It says, he wasn't sloppy about vocabulary by accident. The two words meant essentially the same thing to him. The tidy modern notion of socialism as some cozy, permanent halfway house between capitalism and communism doesn't come from Marx at all. It comes later, mostly through Lenin, another piece of shit, and gets sharpened further under what eventually becomes formal Marxist-Leninist theory. Trace the terminology honestly, Marx to Engels to Lenin, and the lineage gets far more precise than the DSA crowd would like you to notice. So what happened? Socialism matured, as things always do. People spent a century running the experiment in country after country, and the bugs turned out not to be bugs, they turned out to be the actual operating system. And that's what I've been saying for a long time now, is that when these folks say, like, well, true communism has never been tried, it's like, no, it has. Every time. Like, that's what it is, what you've seen. The destruction and misery that has been. Like, that's it. True communism, go look at North Korea. Go look at Cuba. That's what it does. Okay? Continuing on, it says, that system had several agonizingly familiar features. Gulags, breadlines, secret police, failing economies, and brutal suppression. And it was demonstrated in countries all over the globe, spanning the full alphabet from Albania to Zimbabwe, which this column has already walked through just a few days ago. I didn't know that. I might have to check that out. It says, faced with that mountain of evidence, the Democratic Socialists didn't abandon the ideology. They infected our places of higher learning, probably with foreign help. They hired a better PR firm. They rebranded, slapped a friendlier coat of red paint on the same chassis, and started insisting their version is somehow different, gentler, more democratic, in scare quotes, allergic to the Gulag gene that apparently infected every single one of its predecessors, purely by coincidence, of course. And I like the Gulag thing, how it keeps coming up. Like, the Gulag thing is like, they always, you see leftists always come out saying, like, we need to have them re-educated, like people on the right and all this stuff. So, like, they're going to still do that if they can get away with it. Says, here's the problem with that sales pitch, and it's not a subtle one. You can rebrand a shark all you like. Give it a friendlier name. Brucey sounds about right. Remember him from Finding Nemo? Or call him, what was the shark from Jaws' name? It was Bruce. Yeah, no, not Brucey, it was Bruce. That's what Spielberg named him, because I think it was after his lawyer. So it says, give the shark a softer logo, a spokesperson with better hair. Looks like a great white shark with Trump's hair would be funny. It's still got the same teeth, the same appetite, and the same complete inability to stop consuming everything in front of it once it gets the chance. You can chant fish are friends, not food, all you like, but in the end, the natural proclivities take over. You don't get to change a shark's fundamental nature with a marketing campaign, and you don't get to change socialism's fundamental nature, an ideology Marx himself designed as nothing more than a way station towards something even more total, namely communism, by calling it democratic, once again in scare quotes, and hoping nobody bothers to open the actual source material. And he finishes it up here by saying, I'm telling you the truth. Most of the people claiming membership in the Democratic Socialists of America have never actually read Marx, else they didn't understand its implications, else perhaps they're just trying to hide from us what they really want, eh? Figuring this out takes about 10 minutes and a link anyone can click for themselves. And the link, he provided the link to the source material, Marx himself above. Okay, so that's back up there. And it should tell you something about much the rebrand relies on nobody checking. Yeah, I don't think a lot of these people know what they're talking about. And I mean, you can see some of the people go on like the news and stuff. Whenever they're on Fox, and I don't watch Fox, but I've seen clips of it, they just get their asses handed to them. And like these people sound like they legitimately do not know what they're talking about. We support this thing. Why? And they're like, I don't know. But just so you know, the whole point of this article is to say that socialism and communism, the founder of the ideology himself said they were the same thing. So whenever they're trying to sell you like, no, we're Democrat and socialists. No, you're communists. Okay? And you can always run around now and tell people like, hey, Marx himself said that you guys are just communists. So there you go. Some ammunition for you. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.